Today we got 5 common mistakes that people make when preparing for gold. So I noticed that out of you guys here live, I recognize at least a couple of the names from the previous silver ones. Can you put a 1 in the chat if you also attended the silver, just so that I can make sure not to like sort of repeat too many things from silver, because there's a few different ones, but there's also like one-ish that's the same. Oh, okay, and she'll dropped off again. Oh, good. All right, cool. All of you guys were. I know Anshul was also in the silver session as well, because he asked a question at the end. So hopefully his Wi-Fi fixes. All right, cool. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sort of breeze over the ones that are a repeat and really focus on the new ones that are different for gold, because that's what we're here for. All right, so the first one that we have here is not learning DP at a high level. So dynamic programming. So a lot of times when people go from silver to gold, they're really good at the silver preparation stuff, which means they know how to learn the different algorithms in silver at a decent level. And when they go on and take that over to gold, they think, oh yeah, the DP is just another one of those algorithms. So, they don't have to learn the silver algorithms at a decent level. So they're able to learn the different sort of new algorithms in gold, like Dijkstra's, minimum spanning tree, those sort of stuff. However, when it comes to dynamic programming, this is very different than the other algorithms that show up in silver. So when people try to approach dynamic programming like it's just one of those other algorithms that occurs in silver, the issue is that they might learn some like basic dynamic, like dynamic programming is such a vast concept that they might get good at like a small part of it, even like on the easier side, but they may not be able to solve some of the high level stuff, right? Just within gold, there's like one dynamic dimensional that DP to get started on. I'm assuming DP and dynamic programming mean the same thing. And there's two multi-dimensional stuff, right? And then there's gonna be sorry, I'm blanking for a second. There's different optimizations you can do. There's different data structures you can add to it. There's like 2 to the n DP, where you have a dimension which is size 2 to the n. There's digit DP that shows up on digits. There's like 20 different types of DP that you can do. So just thinking that you're gonna just like learn one DP sort of as a base and be done at that point is not going to be sufficient. DP is one of those things that you start to work on in gold, but like you don't even master it in gold. Like DP carries on to platinum. Hard DP problems show up in platinum all the time. So instead of learning DP at a high level, the solution instead, or the what to do instead, is realize that there are so many different layers in depth to DP, and it's like an onion. You just keep peeling it back and just keep peeling more and more layers. So learn that first layer in depth and move on to the next layer. Go to the next type of DP problems. Keep expanding your knowledge about DP and keep learning more and more, and never feel like you're finished with DP. If you feel like you're finished studying DP, you're almost certainly not in gold, just because there's such a vast variety. There's even hard DP problems at IOI with like new concepts and new tricks that they're coming out with all the time. Like you got to keep updated on. Not for you guys, but for like the IOI competitors, right? So there's a lot of interesting stuff in DP, and don't fall into the trap of just thinking you need to learn a little bit DP. Like you need to keep studying it and keep getting better at it. And it'll also serve you well in platinum when DP just gets more and harder. All right. The second most common mistake I see when people prepare for gold is not changing how you prepared for silver. So people have a way that they prepared for silver, and they try to replicate that same thing for gold. Right? Earlier in the silver lecture, we talked about when people prepare for bronze in a way, they try to replicate it for silver, they really miss out on the problem-solving skills a ton. Same thing here. With the silver to gold, you probably have a decent way of like learning some like basic problem-solving skills, but it gets so much more in depth that what you have to do is really turn up the notch and change how you prepare. And again, not everyone, right? This is don't put 100% of people. Some people are probably doing it the right way from bronze, who knows? But for 99% of people, including, by the way, myself, including a lot of high-level competitors, every division that they advance to, so okay, your brain and you are going to rise at a level that you sort of force yourself to do, right? For example, if you give yourself less time for a task, you'll just finish it in less time because your brain rises to the challenge and usually completes challenges that you say. Not always perfectly, but it definitely rises if you give it a harder demand. So every time you place a higher division, like sort of demand on yourself, you will rise to that challenge. And other people in that division are also rising to that challenge. which means that what you've been doing is work to stand out among silver people to advance to gold. Everyone in gold has done that same thing that you did in silver to advance to gold. So doing more of the same thing is likely not going to cut it. And you're going to have to really turn it up a notch. So the main shift between silver and gold that like you need to focus on, right? Like there's the technical stuff you can talk about, like DP problem solving, all of that. And you do need to get significantly better and turn up how you do all those, right? And we'll talk about problem solving again in a second. But one of the main shifts is your commitment to USACO. And what I mean by that is mental focus that you have for USACO. So if you're doing USACO for like an hour a day, and then band for 2 hours, and then swimming for an hour and a half a day, the amount of like focus you have to USACO is not going to be that high. And your brain's like always working in the back, trying to optimize different stuff that you're doing throughout the day. Your brain's going to be working to optimize your band practice or your swimming or whatever those other commitments are, rather than trying to focus and optimize your USACO. So for gold, I'm not saying that USACO has to be your number one priority. However, it does have to be like at least equal with your number one priority in terms of time. If you're spending 3 hours a day on band, you better be spending 3 hours a day on USACO. And 6 hour doesn't exist, which means like if you're spending, if you have like 2-3 hours, hour and a half USACO, hour and a half band. Like it's gotta equal it, not for number of hours you spend on USACO. Like number of hours you spend on USACO, it matters, but you probably already got that down in silver. You're doing this so that your focus and the amount of focused effort you have for USACO increases. Now, another way to do this, if you don't want to give up your other commitments, is saying like, all right, for these 3 months, it's band season. I'm just doing that. But over summer, I'm going to give 3-4 months just for USACO to really go all in on USACO and really up my skills and go through like all gold, even a little bit of platinum if you're spending like time solidly for USACO. You can do that in that period of time. So I'm not saying you have to drop any commitments. I'm just saying that when you're preparing for USACO Gold, it has to be at least on par with your main focus. And if that means that you prepare for USACO Gold during a season when you have other stuff sort of on the back, like on the side, that's wonderful. If you have to do it the same season, try to keep them equal. Now, right before a contest, like I'd say 2 weeks before a contest, try to go all in on USACO. And do this for the December contest. If you failed the December contest, okay, don't repeat it for January, February, March, because then you're essentially like, there's 4 weeks between the two contests. You're spending 2 all on USACO. You're not going to have time for other stuff. But for the first December contest of the year, spend at least 2 weeks just all on USACO right before that contest, refreshing your skills, working on hard problems, getting good at hard problems, making your brain sort of like think about USACO in the background, cut strategy, all that sort of stuff right before the contest. All right, the third most critical mistake I see people making in gold preparation is not being intentional with developing problem-solving skills. So you guys were on the silver lecture. In silver, we talked about why problem-solving skills are important. I think it was even a question, and we talked about a few problem-solving skills. We talked about how to work on problem-solving skills. For gold, everything gets problem-solving skills is one of the things in gold that's sort of like a continuation, but significantly harder. In the sense that you still have to work on building your problem-solving skills. There's just a really big gap between the highest silver problem and the easiest gold problem. So you have to make a massive level of improvement before you can start touching the easier gold problem in terms of problem-solving skill. So, if you advance from silver to gold and just expecting to instantly go into some of the newer gold problems, it's probably not going to work like that. You're probably going to have to build your skills up to that point. In gold, the problems also get a lot more complex. So you might have to like add multiple layers of stuff on. You might have to layer in 4 different problem-solving skills, whereas 1, maybe 2 works for silver. Sometimes it even goes to like 6+ skills, right? So being a lot more intentional with what you're doing. Silver, you can get away with just having stuff like your problem-solving skills, you're generally doing the right thing. You can get away with that as soon as you start getting like better and better at it. For gold, just be a little bit more intentional with how you're approaching it. You can still get away with not being 100% like intentional about it, but the more intentional you are, the easier it's going to be for you and the faster you'll make progress. But yes, you can still get away with it without doing it. I will throw that disclaimer in there. Like, if you really don't want to, you can get away with avoiding this one. All right. Number 4. This is a big one. So when people sort of set their timeline for when they want to advance from gold to platinum, sometimes, a lot of the time actually, they want to also go from platinum to camp the next year. And if you want to go for platinum to camp, prepare to take 4 or at least 3 platinum contests. It's a good rule of thumb. And so you should be prepared to take a gold contest with enough buffer to like change the way you prepare in case the way you prepare is like gonna fail, so that such that you can still take 3 to 4 platinum contests. And so if you're preparing that, like, hey, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the US Open Gold contest and then shoot for platinum platinum contests next year. Well, what if the US Open doesn't go to the according to plan? What if the way preparing is actually not sufficient and you have to change your preparation strategy? You want to, when you set your timeline, you want to incorporate enough buffer such that you can change your preparation strategy and still be prepared to take 4 platinum contests the next year. And again, if you have that buffer, if you're like, all right, I'm gonna do it by the January contest. You're like, oh shoot, I'm gonna see something. All right, maybe I'm gonna go get a preparation strategy. Maybe even work with me. 2 months later, you're ready for the US Open. Great. That buffer allowed you to make that change. Now, if you're really at the end of it and you're like, I have to take the US Open and I'm gonna be junior next year, it's my last chance before college apps. Okay, fine. Your buffer can be the next year's December contest. That is okay. It's just not ideal. And note that the fewer buffer you have, like the more that you have to do to make sure that your soul is solid in terms of like that buffer, right? To make sure that you don't need the extra. I will also add, like the first platinum contest I took, I messed it up. But I had 4 that year, so I took the remaining 3, did well on them, and I made camp. So just having that buffer of like advancing to gold and then having time to switch preparation strategy if needed and still take 4 platinum contests so you can mess up 1 and still do well in 3. Just allowing yourself that buffer when you set up your timeline if you're serious about making cap. And that's really starts in gold. Bronze and silver, it's not really a big thing there. If you're in platinum, great, but it really starts people start making their camp timeline in gold. And the biggest mistake, one big mistake people make is not accounting for these buffers. All right. That is number 4. Number 5 is not having your heart in it. And I mean, you guys were all in the silver one as well, so I'm not going to reiterate this because we did discuss this in silver, and it's basically the same thing. Not having your heart in it. I mean, if you're not feeling it, you're not going to go the extra mile to learn problem-solving skills. You're not going to go the extra mile to think harder about the problem, to focus on stuff that you're bad at. Like, if your heart's not in it, you're not going to spend that extra effort while you're working on the problem. You're spending the extra effort going all in on that problem, right? If you're attacking a problem at like 80%, 70%, you're not going to get the same results and the same progress in your skills as if you're attacking this problem with full 100% focus. And to push yourself to go from like that 70% to like even 90, 95%, 100%, you need to have your heart in it. You need to be like very passionate about it. And I think in one of the previous lectures, we even talked about increasing passion for USACO. Let me see if I can figure out which one that is. I think it might be the secret ingredient required to making USACO camp from April 3. So check that out. I might also do a separate one on a passion if there's enough requests, but for right now, I'll just say go check out the April 3 one on increasing passion if that's something that you feel like would benefit you. All right, so those are the 5 things for gold. Just to summarize real quick, issue number 1 is learning DP at a high level. That's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is not changing how you prepare for silver. Problem number 3, not being intentional with increasing your problem-solving skills. Problem number 4, not setting a timeline with a buffer if you're serious about making camp. Buffer for gold and buffer for platinum, because you might miss up the first platinum contest. You never know. And if you can't, take a bunch of practice contests so you don't make any mistakes, because you don't have room for an error if you don't set up a buffer. And number 5, not having your heart in it. I mean, yeah, you guys already know, I said earlier, this week is more conceptual. Next week we'll do more coding. I might go back to conceptual in 2 weeks. So yeah, we're just gonna keep going and keep getting better at USACO. So hope to see you next week. All right, thanks guys. Have a nice week.